Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark. First up, former UN Under-Secretary General for Disarmament Affairs Jayantha Dhanapala reviews the last 12 months. Then LMD columnist and market analyst Hasta Premaratna discusses market sentiment. And we wind up the show with TNS Lanka's country manager Kiran Etchen, who brings us up to date on TNS's latest nationwide survey. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Season's greetings and welcome to Benchmark. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. As is customary for our year-end show, we have a traditional two-part interaction today with one of the nation's most celebrated diplomats, Jayantha Dhanapala. He's a former UN Under-Secretary General for Disarmament Affairs, the president of the Pugwash Conferences on Science and World Affairs, which won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1995, and he recently received the 2014 International Achievement Award for Nuclear Disarmament. Today, he reviews the last 12 months and gives us his unique perspective on Sri Lanka. Welcome, Mr. Dhanapala. Thank you very much for joining us, as always, at the end of the year.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
If you were to look at Sri Lanka, looking back at the last 12 years, what is your overall assessment of the country?
I think we have recorded moderate progress in the economic field. There have been criticisms about the practice of democracy in our country and human rights. In the sports field, we've done brilliantly by winning the T20, and that is a matter of great pride, I think, for all Sri Lankans, and augurs well for the World Cup next year. But I think we need to reflect on all this performance as we approach the presidential election in January 2015, a snap election which was suddenly declared by the president 2 years in advance of the expiry of his term, for reasons best known to him. But I think it is an opportunity for us to reflect on the constitutional situation that we are placed in, having had an executive presidency now for 35 years. But with the 18th Amendment having been adopted, abolishing the two-term limit and abolishing also the 17th Amendment, which set up independent commissions, we are going to have an election for a third term of a president for the first time. We are also going to have an election conducted by commissions which are not entirely independent. In other words, the Commissioner of Elections, the police, the judiciary, etc., are all appointed by the president. So we have to see how this is implemented at the beginning of next year and make assessments. But in terms of the economy, I think a 7 to 8% growth has been moderately successful. We are a middle-income country now, and certainly infrastructure-wise, we made great advances. But at the same time, there are criticisms of the cost of the roads that have been built, and perhaps some kind of audit on that will be necessary for the future if we are going to expand our infrastructure. In terms of national reconciliation, I think we have still miles to go. We have not successfully won the hearts and minds of the people of the North and the East and of the minorities. We had a disaster in terms of Sinhala-Muslim relations as a result of the activities of one faction of Buddhist monks. If we are going to march forward as a modern nation, we need to do so as a united nation, and we cannot risk another 30-year conflict as a result of neglecting inter-ethnic relations.
Do you feel that the peace dividend has translated or transcended to all citizens, not just the rich, not just certain segments of society, but everyone?
I'm afraid I cannot see that there has been an equal spread of the peace dividend. We have certainly won a peace, and the fact that we don't have to run the risk of bombs exploding in bus stands in other crowded places is a great relief from the past, and we owe a debt of gratitude to the armed forces of the country and to the President for having led them in a military victory which has been hard fought and hard won. But yet the peace has to be achieved, a secure peace, a stable peace. And that is where I think there has been a grave omission politically on the part of the government, because we have an unequal growth. The people at the lower end of the spectrum in the economic situation of the country have not been able to make ends meet. In the past, Sri Lanka was very, very highly regarded in the World Bank and other international financial circles for the redistribution with growth that we had. But now the gap between the rich and the poor is even worse, and that is not a very good reflection on the management of our economy.
You mentioned the infrastructure development that has been taking place, but if you look back at the 5 years post-conflict, do you think there has been adequate infrastructure growth?
It is not adequate. We started, of course, with a low base, but we have only got the highway to the south and the expressway to Katunayake Airport. We desperately need a north-south highway, because that is politically important, not only economically important. We have a lot of other expressways to be done. So carpeting village loads for points to be obtained for the local politician is not necessarily the right priority. There are other priorities, and I think schools need much more advanced capital. We have no longer got the 6% that is regarded as the benchmark for investment in education. Our health is underfunded. So I think it is very necessary for us to spend more on our health sector and our education sector, because those are the priorities, especially for the future of generations.
Has Sri Lanka made any progress towards national reconciliation post-conflict, or have we regressed?
Mr. Vasudeva Nanayakar, as the minister in charge, has endeavored to do as much as he can, but he has not been supported by other ministries and by the private sector. And so there is still a sense of alienation of the North and the East, in spite of the fact that we've had 5 years post the conflict in May 2009. That is also aggravated by the fact that we do not have a law and order situation in the country where the minorities feel that they are equal citizens before the law. There have been incidents of Tamil youth being arbitrarily arrested because of their ethnicity, and there are also instances where the presence of the military in large numbers in the North and the East makes the people of the North and the East feel that they are in occupied territory, and that is not a good feeling for a citizen to have in a democratic country.
One of the arguments put forth by the state is that having that extra military presence, especially in the north, is because there's a lot of LTT activity still going on. What do you think?
Well, the LTT bogey is very convenient for the government to use in order to justify a heavy hand of securitization. There is also the complaint that the diaspora abroad are very active, and that is true. But if the government boasts on the one hand that it has successfully overcome the terrorist threat as a result of the victory in 2009 and has eliminated the LTTE, then at the same time to keep harping on the possible LTT threat re-emerging is a contradiction, in my opinion. If its security arm is very good, if its intelligence is successful, then there is no need to fear it. But for political purposes, they need to keep that bogey so that people feel that there is some protection from the army. This is not fair by the Tamil people, because inevitably when the LTTE bogey is raised, there is a suspicious finger pointed at our Tamil brothers and sisters who are fellow citizens of ours. Because of their ethnicity, they are immediately people who fall under suspicion. In any checkpoint, you will see that it is the Tamils who get asked for their identity cards and not so much the Sinhalese. And now perhaps even the Muslims are being similarly targeted. So the government can't have it both ways.
It's time for our commercial break now. When we return, Jayantha Dhanapala talks about the law and order situation in the country as well as Sri Lanka's international image. Stay with us.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
As soon as my salary goes into my HNB account, my family goes shopping just like a power play. Now with HNB mobile banking, wherever you are in the world, you can check your account balance and do your banking with ease. Wherever I am in the world, HNB is active on my mobile and tab 24 hours a day. HNB mobile banking. Bank anywhere from any mobile.
Thank you for staying with us on Benchmark. We now continue our exclusive interview right at the end of the year with former UN Under Secretary General Jayantha Dhanapala and senior diplomat that he is. Mr. Dhanapala, you mentioned just before the break about the serious breakdown in law and order. Would we be right in saying that law and order has plummeted to new lows?
I think it has. I think we have had numerous instances in the past with this kind of situation, but our process of justice, law enforcement and judiciary have always been of very high standards when you compare it with the rest of Asia and with the world. But sadly, there has been a great deal of political interference in the operation of the rule of law. From the impeachment of the Chief Justice downwards, we've had interference in the judiciary and a loss of confidence in the judiciary of our country, stemming from the fact that the Judicial Service Commission is not an independent commission and all judges are appointed by the President. So the executive presidency remains at the root of a lot of the problems of the rule of law in the country, plus the fact that the police commission is also not independent. And so there is a fear that the police are acting in order to curry favor, political favors.
Shouldn't our politicians actually be leading the way in upholding law and order instead of, by their words and actions, almost showing the people that law and order is extinct and it's not something that is necessary? Absolutely.
We have had numerous cases of the President himself pardoning people who have been flagrantly in violation of the law, who have committed murders and who have committed other offences, and who did not merit the pardons that they received. And the only justification for the pardons is the fact that they were political favourites of the President. Now, this is not a way to dispense justice, and it's not a way to encourage the people to maintaining discipline and to maintaining law and order. Likewise, we've had instances, as I said before, of the sons and daughters of the powerful being given special treatment. We had the egregious case of the murder of a British tourist and the rape of his girlfriend, and it is only because of the persistence of the British High Commission here that we had a prosecution in that case and a conviction. But not everybody is able to have the diplomatic support of a foreign country in order to have his or her case pursued. And so we have a very high murder rate in the country, a high rate of robberies and other offences. But more than that, there is a sense of vulnerability of the average citizen when he or she walks on the road. And that vulnerability is felt particularly by women and girl children, because the number of cases of rape and indecent abuse of women has increased. And that, I think, is a very serious, because in our traditional culture there was a great deal of respect for our mothers and sisters and daughters. But now that respect seems to have completely been disregarded, and the way in which women are treated and abused, even publicly, most recently by a minister of this government, has been a very, very serious dereliction of the normal canons of behavior.
About Sri Lanka's international image, do you think we have suffered setbacks since the end of the conflict?
Yes, the most serious setback took place in the Human Rights Council in Geneva in March this year, where for the third time a resolution was adopted criticizing Sri Lanka's human rights record, but this time with the additional condition that there should be an investigation launched into conduct, particularly in the last days of the 2009 conflict. Now, this could have been avoided by the country if it took timely action to have its own internal domestic investigation into whatever allegations had been made about our human rights situation. But we failed to do that. We failed also to expeditiously implement the LLRC recommendations that were made by a very good commission which came out with a report that was widely hailed as being a very salutary and independent and objective analysis of what had happened in the past. And after the 3 resolutions in the Human Rights Council, all of them interspersed with abuse by the government of the West and of the UN machinery which is behind the Human Rights Council, we now are facing a possible adverse resolution in 2015 with serious consequences, which may even include bilateral sanctions. We have to be therefore extremely circumspect about our international image. We are also jeopardizing our relations with India because we have still not sufficiently managed that relationship successfully. We are seen by the international community to be depending too much on our economic investment and our loans with China, which is not only politically unwise but also economically unwise. I think we need to spread our relationship much more evenly. So all these problems are there affecting our international image.
What is the reason for Sri Lanka's foolhardiness in the foreign relations environment?
It stems from a very confused and ill-conceived foreign policy, not adhering to the principled and balanced non-aligned policy that we had practiced impeccably by Mrs. Sirimavu Bandaranaike in the past and by others along with her. But I think it's also because we have lost the high standard of professionalism that we had in our foreign service. As a result of the flooding of the foreign service with political appointees, not only at the level of ambassadors and high commissioners, but also at the level of first secretaries, second secretaries, third secretaries, and even drivers and others in the missions abroad. The incident that took place regarding the High Commissioner of London, which the government has tried to sweep under the carpet, represents a symbol of the levels to which our foreign policy and foreign policy execution has descended.
So thank you very much again, Mr. Dhanapala, for joining us today, our last show for the year.
Thank you. Thank you.
We've been discussing the year that was, the year of 2014, with Jayantha Dhanapala. And he will be back in the new year with a message for the powers that be. On the other side, we have Hasitha Premaratna, market analyst and LMD columnist with the latest on the bourse, and the country manager for TNS Lanka, Kiran HN, who will give you the latest on the LMD TNS survey. So we end this edition of Spotlight, wishing you a great season ahead, and we hope to see you in the new year.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC. Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
As soon as my salary goes into my H&B account, my family goes shopping just like a power play. Now with H&B mobile banking, wherever you are in the world, you can check your account balance and do your banking with ease. Wherever I am in the world, H&B is active on my mobile and tab 24 hours a day. H&B mobile banking. Bank anywhere from any mobile.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. We'll now take a closer look at the Colombo Stock Exchange with market analyst and LMD columnist Hasitha Premaratna. Hasitha, welcome to the show. Now, how is the bourse faring at this point of time?
Yeah, it has been an interesting last 30 days because we saw the market picking up to crossing almost 7,500 points level, and then post-election announcement there was a bit of uncertainty around the whole equation, and now the market has kind of come down to about 7,200 level. So there was a kind of a immediate drop and a bit of a settle down. Now things seem to be settling down at those levels, but still year on year, if you look at from January 1st to date, still the market is up about 22%. So we've seen fairly a healthy return this year, and I think the level of 7,500 plus where the market was heading to, I thought was a bit too much, bit too heated. And there was a bit of profit taking coupled with the uncertainty associated with the election announcement did have an impact towards market coming down.
Taking into account the forthcoming elections, would you say that this is a good time to invest, or what's your advice? Should people be more wary at this point of time?
Well, I think the volatility is good for a short-term trading opportunity, but then before you make a longer-term investment, I think maybe you need to sort of take this 1 month off and look how it's going in terms of the election result, etc. But broadly, either party comes to power, I think the development work will be continued. So there seem to be consistency in that side, and the economy side, there should not be too much of an impact in the broader framework and how it's being directed. But having said that, if there is a change in government, you can expect a short-term kind of a bit of a changeover. So that's probably what the investors are not too sort of happy about, and particularly the uncertainty. So investors should not worry too much, but it's always safe to take a 1 month view and in this period to take more wait and see approach than jumping in to more long-term investments.
How are foreign investors seeing the political situation in the country at this point in time?
Yeah, I think naturally when you have a uncertain passage, a more educated investor who takes kind of a longer term view tend to stay out of the market during that period or take more wait and see approach. So I think that's exactly what most of the foreign investors have done. They've not really gone into committing new money, but also you must not forget the fact that we are in December, and December is generally the last month for most of the foreign investors. So naturally they slow down during this period. So it's not really the political uncertainty per se has contributed to maybe lack of foreign activity, but predominantly because this is anyway a fairly slow period when it comes to foreign investments to any market for that matter.
That was market analyst and LMD columnist Hasta Premaratna. After a short commercial break, we will take a closer look at the latest LMD TNS survey. Stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
As soon as my salary goes into my HNB account, my family goes shopping just like a power play. Now with HNB mobile banking, wherever you are in the world, you can check your account balance and do your banking with ease. Wherever I am in the world, HNB is active on my mobile and tab 24 hours a day. HNB mobile banking. Bank anywhere from any mobile.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. We'll now take a closer look at the latest LMB TNS survey with the country manager of TNS Lanka, Kiran Etchen. So, Kiran, just tell us a little bit about this survey.
Every year, Anushan, the December survey is focused on understanding how people felt about that year and their sentiments about how we fared as a nation in that year that went by. So this year also we have done the same thing. And it's very encouraging to see that mostly the results are positive and people feel that the year has been generally good for the country. Particularly when you compare it with the results of December 2013 survey, I can say that it's a significantly encouraging improvement.
So how do respondents view the year that was in terms of the economy, Kiran?
Close to 60% of the people we met believe that Sri Lanka made very good economic progress in the year 2014. And they talk about many things as to why they feel so, but broadly it boils down to the progress that they see around them, particularly emphasizing on infrastructure development. 90% of the people we met, almost everyone, are talking about infrastructure projects have gained significant momentum in 2014. A lot of them also talk about the boost in the tourism sector and how that is also positively impacting the economy of the country. But having said that, I must also mention close to 30% don't agree that we seem to have made significant progress, and they are talking what progress are you talking about with the current cost of living in the country. They are also mentioning about the macroeconomic indicators seem to be fine, but the country is still under a lot of debt. A few of them also mention how our economy has been adversely impacted because of the agricultural produce that have failed because of the natural disasters and the monsoon or the lack of it.
What do people have to say about national reconciliation?
As I said, Anushan, broadly the results are positive, and the results on this topic too is very encouraging. almost 67% of the people we surveyed believe that we have taken stronger steps towards national reconciliation. People believe that we seem to have put the war behind us quite definitely, and there is genuinely there is a genuine sense of friendship, or developing friendship between the different ethnic groups. Very interestingly, a lot of people also mention the Colombo Jaffna train, the Al Devi train that is reopened, and they believe that it is much more than a train connection. But having said that, there are naysayers too. A few of them mention the few communal tensions that we saw between Sinhalese and Muslim community. So they believe that because of these things, I don't think we have yet made national reconciliation. But by and large, the results are very positive.
That was the country manager of TNS Lanka, Kiran Echen. From the entire team at Benchmark, we wish you a happy new year. Thank you for watching Benchmark.